often talk about Donald Trump's penchant for calling it like he sees it. Not too much 3D chess from the president, except for this case of the Iranian strikes. Israel has blindsided Iran, attacking and destroying somewhere between 4 of its nuclear sites, multiple arms and oil depots, as well as the entire senior staff of the IRGC. Now, why did this happen? Donald Trump has spent 2 months infuriating a large portion of his base by trying to pursue a nuclear deal with the Iranians. He said, you have 60 days. We will work on a deal. Our only red line is no enrichment of nuclear weaponry. Iranians, they were dragging Trump along. On the 61st day, Israel struck, and Donald Trump knew it. Why? Because this is the ultimate art of the deal in action. The goal is not regime change. The goal is to deplete all of Iran's stockpiles of weapons and make it so that way they have to give up their nuclear weaponry. As Donald Trump said, for those who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon. And look, Christian, I think this is very Reagan-esque. Because look, the thing that Reagan did, most important probably in the history of humanity, was dramatically reduce the number of nuclear weapons on the planet with the fall of the Soviet Union. Trump is trying to do the same thing. I guess I fail to understand the Tucker Carlson argument of somehow it is anti-war to allow Iran, which calls us the big Satan and Israel the little Satan and pledges to eradicate us both. Why would you want them to have nuclear weapons when we could stop that?
You know, Tucker and his points that he's always made about Iran and about the Middle East writ large, I think genuinely run contrary to not only non-interventionalists, but like really every single Republican out there. But that is Tucker, and I can say that, you know, having worked for him in the past, he is a contrarian. So even if, you know, the majority of his intellectual peers are barking up one tree, he's just going to go and find another one. But I think the way the White House is spinning the developments with Iran and with Israel is brilliant, because this is a, you know, quite frank, a chicken and an egg scenario. Was Donald Trump 5D chessing this behind the scenes? And obviously he has sort of run into conflict with Netanyahu about the way the Gaza war has gone ever since February. So I'm not so sure that this is him actually pulling the strings, or if he's just kind of getting lucky and it falls into his overarching plan for changing the status quo pursuant to Iran. Because you are right. The deal that they had put out there publicly, or at least that had been reported on being offered by Witkoff, is, you know, the total opposite of his entire Iran policy up to this point in time. So I'm not so sure, but I do think he is in desperate need of a win in foreign policy right now. Again, because of the way that Ukraine and Russia is going on, and because of the way not only China, but some of our other friendlier trading partners have resisted coming to the table with all of these tariff bilateral agreements that the president is trying to reach. So I do think this is a, to be quite honest, stronger stance for Donald Trump, both in terms of embracing Iran and trying to change that status quo, but also getting his base back under control. But again, I have it in the back of my mind, is he really in control of this situation? And what happens 2-3 months down the line when this thing has escalated? Because we do know Israel is going to continue striking Iran. Will the U.S. be dragged into a war? That's something I don't think Donald Trump can spin into a win.
But again, I don't, the goal is not war, the goal is not regime change, and here's why.
Correct.
We remember in his first term, when he let John Bolton go out there, say a bunch of nonsense, and then turn around and let him wither on the vine, sort of be a patsy for the administration. And I think Trump has effectively used Witkoff in this role, but in the alternate way, right, where Witkoff is very much an appeaser.
Yeah.
And Trump specifically had scheduled on Sunday the 6th round of negotiations between Witkoff and the Iranians. That was the same time when Netanyahu was pretending to be at his son's wedding. So the idea was the Iranians were completely blindsided for when this was going to happen, because they thought it certainly wouldn't happen while Netanyahu was at his son's wedding, and it certainly wouldn't happen when Witkoff was preparing to meet them all in Oman. So I think it seems quite clear that Netanyahu would have never done this without Trump. And also, Trump can be quite changeable on most policy, right? Like, we've seen him take every position in the book on certain arenas. Iran is one of those things. He has always correctly excoriated the Obama-Iran deal as the worst deal the U.S. ever entered into, right? He has always been an Iran hardliner. It was arguably the most successful feature of his first term, was his maximum pressure campaign. Unlike his first term, however, you have Israel that has they've taken out Hezbollah completely to the point where the Lebanese government told Hezbollah, you're done, you're not acting on this.
Hamas is on the ropes.
Hamas is on the ropes. The Houthis in Yemen have been seriously degraded, also in part because of the U.S. He no longer has a puppet state of Assad in Syria. Syria is now a puppet state, a client state of Turks who are allies in this, right? Because they also hate the Iranians. Russia is a little busy right now. They don't exactly have extra, depot to give them. And the Chinese are much more interested in brokering a deal with Trump because we consume so many of their exports, right? So Iran is really in a position where they can fire as many ballistics at Israel as they want. The Iron Dome keeps on shooting them down.
99% of them, at least.
To the point where they won't have much left. And I think Trump is saying, I gave you a chance. I gave you 60 days to make the best deal of all the deals. Meanwhile, the real art of the deal was getting everything into place where you had Mossad agents inside Iran for days setting this all up. And now it will be, I think the goal is to make it so that way the regime knows their very survival is contingent on giving up that final nuclear site that's in the base of a mountain.